1,000 times, and we'll hear it 1,000 more, how important it is to have a good credit score, right? So then you think to yourself, well, I lose a few points here, I lose a few points there, it can't make that much of a difference. Well, you might want to think again. Here to explain is Deanna Doherty, President and CEO of American Equity Mortgage. Deanna, always nice to see you.
Thank you. Great to see you.
Thank you for stopping by.
You bet.
So why should everyone watching this morning be so worried about that number, about that credit score?
Well, your credit score, it's a measure of risk, and so that is a major factor in whether you can even get credit and in what terms you can get credit. So an example of how much it impacts you, a $150,000 mortgage loan over 30 years,
okay.
A 3% difference in interest rate, which would be if you have a low score, you have a higher interest rate, and a good score, you have a lower interest rate.
Gotcha.
That will cost you over $100,000 over the life of that loan if you've got the low score.
You've got to be kidding.
I know, it's huge.
I guess over the span of 30 years,
right.
It really does add up. But think about that,
it does.
30 years, $100,000. And
yeah.
that really, so that's a good ballpark estimate of what low score versus high score can mean in a mortgage application, for example?
It is. And, you know, it affects other things also. It can affect your ability to rent an apartment. It can affect the terms on car loans, credit cards, all of those things. It can even affect you getting a job, because more and more employers are looking at credit score in their pre-hiring process.
Wow.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second. When you slide that resume across the table, 2 hours later, that guy's going to be looking at your credit score. How about that? So the next logical question, I guess, is how is the credit score even determined in the first place? How do they come to that number?
Yeah, there's three main categories. Your payment history is the most important. So paying your bills on time or not has the biggest impact on your score. And then the amount of credit that you have, how much you've charged, especially on credit cards compared to what your limit is, that all factors in, how long you've had a credit history. And then what's called your public records, that's if you've had bankruptcy filings or tax liens, those impact your credit. And even your inquiries, how often people pull your credit. That even has an impact also.
Because if your credit's been pulled a lot frequently, maybe that means you're having trouble getting financed?
Exactly. It's an indicator that you're having trouble getting approved, or an indicator that you're trying to take out multiple new credit at the same time.
Which could be a red flag to a lender who's just looking out for their best interests, obviously. So how can people improve that number? How can we bring the credit score up a little bit?
Yeah, the most important thing is to pay your bills on time. So if you've had late payments, get back on track and start paying them on time. That will have the biggest impact. Keep your balances no more than 30% of what your available credit is, or what your total credit line is.
30%. Okay.
Right. Because it's much better if you owe $2,000 on a credit card, but your limit is $6,000.
Right.
You look much better than if you owe that same $2,000, but your limit is $2,000 or $3,000, right?
That makes a lot of sense.
Because you're closer to maxed out. Another thing that you need to do is check that credit report at least once a year. You can get a free credit report from the bureaus, and you need to look at it for errors, because there's a surprising number of errors on credit reports.
You deal with this every day. Biggest common mistake you think that people make that impacts their credit negatively?
Yes, that negatively impacts it is closing accounts, because of what I was just explaining on the balance and how much you're charged up. If you close an account, it doesn't erase bad payment history. If you've had late payments, that stays on there, but it could make it where you're closer to your credit lines, where you're more maxed out.
You close that account, but all of a sudden you're borrowing your entire credit line.
Exactly.
Because you closed the account.
Exactly.
Interesting. Very good tips. To contact American Equity Mortgage, just give them a call. It's area code 314-878-9999, or click on your computer, AmericanEquityMortgage.com. They're there online as well. Deanna, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Carol?
All right, more great advice for you now, because school's in session for a lot of you, so it's crunch time. The founder of MomCentral.com is here to help us get through the three most hectic times of the day. And Stacy DeBroff, thank you so much for joining us. It is the morning rush, the after-school runaround, and the nighttime crash. So let's walk through them one at a time, starting with the morning rush. How do we make this less stressful?
The morning is such a key time, Carol, for families where we're trying to get kids out of bed. They've been used to the leisure hours of the summer, and there are ways that we can smooth that transition. One tip that I love is to pre-pack just outfits for kids. So from socks to tops, they have, especially for younger kids, they can just grab this out of their dresser and they're set to go. You can ask older kids to lay out their clothes the night before. Another thing that happens in the mornings is trying to get lunches packed for school. And a tip that I have is to take fruits and vegetables that your kids like, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, carrots, celery sticks, and Sunday afternoons or evenings, put them into baggies along with things like string cheese that you can grab. And also a family favorite that we found for our family was Smucker's Uncrustables, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that come in 5 varieties, and our kids would just grab them from the freezer straight to a lunchbox. It's thaw and go. And so by putting these out, and also the same fruits and vegetables can become wholesome snacks for your kids when they come home after school and wonder, what can I have to eat?
And that other difficult time, as you just mentioned, is after school. One of the big issues that my kids face is I want them to have a snack. I really do, and that's okay, but I want it to be a good snack. And then we'll talk about, sports and how we manage that. So talk first about the after-school snack and then about sports.
For after-school snacking, one of the things, because usually our kids are cascading from one activity to the next, is to pack them snacks that they can go, whether or not it is, and you can set them up in advance with your kids, because this is a time where kids are reaching for potato chips, junk food, and so by having fruits, things that you can keep in the car like granola bars, healthy snacks that they can grab, even grabbing an Uncrustable peanut butter and jelly sandwich, something that gives them that protein, that burst to get them through. With activities, I like to set activity bags out, and this is a way that you can ensure your kids arrive at their activities with everything they need. There's nothing worse than having your child show up for soccer practice without their shin guards, or basketball practice without a mouth guard, swimming without goggles. And by asking kids to help you put things out, they have their water bottles, and you just replenish as you go.
All right. Well, we do have to go. I hate to cut you off, but we do have to go. And one issue that she wants to bring up as well, the nighttime crush. Stacy DeBroff tells us to organize a homework center. Stacy, I love that advice. Thank you so much for your time today on Great Day St. Louis.
Thank you so much, Carol, and I encourage everyone to come to my website, momcentral.com, for parenting tips, and also Uncrustables.com for organizational tips.
Oh, we all need to be better organized. We'll be back with more Great Day St. Louis, but first, here's Terry Crouppen.
I know that a lot of people say a lot of things about lawyers, not all good things. Most of it's based on the fact that no one, myself included, likes to be sued, and lawyers do tend to sue people. But lawyers actually do a lot of good things people never hear about. For instance, did you know that every year lawyers help Medicare and Medicaid recover hundreds of millions of dollars paid out to accident victims and refunds that money back to the government? That's hundreds of millions of dollars we the people don't have to spend, and today every 100 million helps. So the next time you start to talk about a lawyer, remember that lawyers are just a random selection of Americans. White, black, Hispanic, Asian, male, female. Lawyers reflect our values and ethics because just like doctors, accountants, and plumbers, lawyers are us. I'm Terry Crouppen.